Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Burnt Pancakes podcast. I'm your host, Katie Fensky, reminding moms that everyone burns the first pancake. Now, I have a very special treat for you today. That is right. We are heading into the holiday season. Everyone's doing their holiday baking, and I have on an expert. I have Hetal Vasaveda, and she is the author of two cookbooks and the creator of Milk and Cardamom blog. And she is an expert baker and is going to tell us all the tips and tricks about holiday baking. So I realize I'm making all the mistakes, but she is telling us the secrets behind getting those perfect cookies, having an amazing cookie swap, and also about an organization she's involved with called Cookies for Kids and Challenge Butter and all the amazing things they're doing this holiday. So get your spatulas ready, get your measuring cups ready, because we're talking about holiday baking. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm super excited about this one because it's the holidays. We're all baking. I'm going to get some expert tips from you. So, will you start by just introducing yourself? How many kids do you have? Because we're a mom podcast. And then let me know how you got into baking.
So I got one 8-year-old girl who's like 8 going on like 16.
Ugh, I've got the 10 going on like 25 right now. Oh
Yeah, yeah.
yes.
I'm like, what? Um, and I got into baking because I had to. I was in school, I was studying biochemistry, and my organic chemistry professor told me that if I could bake, I would pass lab. So I started baking, and then it turned into like a full hyperfixation and obsession. And it has led to me being a cookbook author, recipe developer, food
Oh
writer,
my
etc.
gosh. Whoa. So this is not something like as a child you were like, I'm gonna bake. This was
No.
like a
Baking
major
is n
pivot.
Yeah, no. Baking is not a thing in Indian culture at all. Like we didn't have great grandmothers cookie recipes or anything like that because most people didn't have ovens.
Oh.
Like my mom didn't grow up with an oven in her house. They had a town baker that they would like go give ingredients to and then they would bake
Well,
something.
wow.
But yeah, baking is not a big thing, a part of at least the Gujarati Indian community. If you're a part of like the Dutch Indian, Anglo-Indian, or Parsi Indian, there's a little bit of baking, but not for me.
So you had to like learn everything as you went. Like you had to
Yeah.
teach yourself. Do you feel like having the background in, you said it was biochemistry? Did
hmm
that help you like develop your
Oh,
recipes and no?
absolutely. No, no, no. I meant like, yes, 100%. See, this is like the Indian, like we say no and yes, you just don't know what's going on. Um, you inherit it. It's genetic, I'm pretty sure. But Um, no, biochemistry really helped me a lot because the same way that I would run experiments in the lab is the same way I will write a recipe. So I'll come up with the idea of like what I want my end product to look like, taste like, and then what texture I want it. And then I work backwards into, okay, now what do I need to do? What ingredients do I need to make this happen? You would do the same thing in a chem lab. You're like, this is what I want. What chemicals do I need to get it there? Um,
Fascinating.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that brings me to one of my questions that I was going to have for you. As a baker, do you use exact measurements or do you just like I'm an eyeballer and my husband's like a I'm exact and I like dust the flour off and I get the perfect and he's like you didn't even like you just I was like it's close, right? What are
I'm
you?
even worse. I'm worse than that. I only bake with a scale.
Oh,
Um, I
well,
weigh
to
out
me
my
that makes
cookie
sense for you.
dough.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I weigh my cookie dough out, so each cookie dough is the same weight, so it's the same
Wow.
size.
So I would drive you
Um,
crazy.
yeah, because the thing is, like, if you have too much flour, your cookies might not flatten out, and if you have too little, excuse me, not enough flour, your cookies will turn into one giant pizookie. Like and like there's a 20 to 30% difference when you use like a cup measurement because like the flour might be fluffy, so then you might get less flour. But if you pack the flour down, then you might get 30% more flour. And usually all the mistakes I ever see that people leave like comments
Mm-hmm.
on blogs and recipes, why didn't my cookies spread or my cookies spread too much? And I'm like, if you used a scale, your ratios of butter to flour would have been right and it would have been fine. But
That's
I would say
interesting.
90% of mistakes that people make is because they're not weighing. Now, if you don't care, that's
Right.
fine.
Right.
Then it doesn't
You're not
matter.
baking for other people. Because that was another
No.
one of my questions. A lot of times when I make cookies, like chocolate chip cookies,
Yeah.
they're just like flat and like cakey texture, but
Too
just
much
like
flour.
too much flour. Okay. I was always
Yes.
like, because then I thought it was like maybe I'm supposed to use baking powder versus baking soda. What's the difference between those two?
So baking soda, both of them are leaveners, which means it
Okay.
provides like rise to a bake. But baking powder is activated twice, once by an acid and then second time by heat in the oven. Baking soda is only activated by an acid.
Oh,
So that's why like you'll see recipes with like buttermilk or even cocoa powder is like acidic or sorry, that's too alkaline. So like sometimes you'll get flatter pieces. So then they'll ask you to add like a little bit of vinegar.
okay.
Um, so you can substitute one for the other, but not equal amounts.
Okay.
Um, I want to say like a quarter teaspoon of baking powder to half a teaspoon of baking soda, like half the amount, basically.
So get out your scale and measure them.
Yes.
Okay, what about butter, salted versus unsalted if you're doing like baking cookies?
Okay, so
What's the
every
difference?
brand adds a different amount of salt to their butter, to their salted butter.
Okay.
So like one brand might add like 2 tablespoons, another brand might add like half a cup, and you don't know. So if you're making cookies and you use salted butter, unless a recipe specifies to use salted butter, you might end up with a more saltier cookie than you expected.
Okay.
Um, so because every brand is different and you want your bakes to be consistent, that's why most recipes will say use unsalted butter and then add salt in.
Okay.
Um, yeah, every
I
brand's different.
I am officially learning that I've made all the mistakes. I've made them
I
all.
did them too. I did all the mistakes too. Trust me.
So, okay, back to you were in college and your professor said, got to bake. So, did you just go all into baking and like what was your journey like? What did you start with first?
So I started with like box cake mixes and just like starting, I think, the way most people start baking.
Hmm.
And then I got curious and I would challenge myself to make harder and harder bakes and like more stuff from scratch. So
Okay.
like I started with cheesecakes because I was in school in Philly and one of my jobs was
Why not?
cheesecake decorating. So I started with cheesecakes initially, and then I started like kind of doing other recipes. But it was always like something to either like stress relief or procrastinate, as people say, or rage bake, or all the emotional baking. It was really just a crutch for my emotions and a hyperfixation of my ADHD, which at the time was undiagnosed. Um, then I went into healthcare, worked as a organic chemist doing research in cancer drugs. I worked as a medical biller. I moved on and worked as a healthcare consultant, fighting insurance companies on behalf of mamas whose bills insurance didn't
Oh
want
my
to
gosh.
pay.
Oh my gosh.
Um, it was a soul-sucking job.
I was gonna say that sounds so stressful. Of course
It
you
was
bake.
Yes, so I did a lot of baking and a lot of stress relieving in those times, especially rage baking, when I'm like on the phone every day, just like telling the
The
insurance rep, like,
worst.
no, this mom had like a tear that's insane, like a third-degree tear and blah, 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 that happened. Like she needed the additional medical help. And like, they're like, no. And I'm
Oh,
just like,
oh my gosh.
yeah, exactly. So, and it wasn't just like one or two cases. I found like a $22 million case, um,
Wow.
of this one specific insurance company consistently denying moms, like paying their bills,
Oh my
denying it for medical
gosh.
lack of medical necessity. So it was just stressful. My husband saw that I was extremely unhappy with my career and not my career, but more so like the bureaucracy of it
Mhm.
all.
Mhm.
you know? Um, because I definitely felt very good when I would get the
Yeah.
insurance company
Yeah.
to pay up. Like
Yeah.
that was great and it was like enough to fuel me to continue arguing. But the bureaucracy of just being in the corporate world, like the bless you heart of it all, if you get what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah.
Um, it just wasn't for me. Like if things weren't looking good, I was always very much like a realist and like things aren't good. What do we do? And instead they wanted me to be like, everything's great, everything's fine. And I'm like, but it's not.
Mhm. It's probably draining on you. Like that would take a
Extremely
toll.
draining.
Mhm.
Yeah, toxic positivity was like the vibe there. So he like pushed me to quit and it took a couple months of like convincing and I did. And he was like, "Why don't you go into food?" But I didn't have a at the time, like if you didn't have a culinary degree,
Mhm.
you like it was even taboo to call yourself a chef.
So like you weren't legit. Like
Yeah,
you
I
didn't have
wasn't.
any
Yeah,
credentials. Okay.
exactly. I was like, well, I didn't go to culinary school. Like, I've worked in the back of a restaurant and sure, like, but I wasn't like head chef or anything anywhere. Um, and then, ooh, hold on,
Your
cookies.
cookies are burning. Go, go, pause.
Ah! Good.
Okay.
We're good. The shortbread is out.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. I'm trying to remember where we were. You had just quit your job.
Yes, I
You
quit my job.
yeah, go yeah.
Yeah, I needed the confidence to like tell people to pay me to eat my food, um, which I didn't have. Um, so my husband was like, "Why don't you go on MasterChef? Because it's all a bunch of other home chefs, right?" So he's like, "You could see that then where you are in comparison to everyone else." And I was like, "All right, fine." And I tried out, and I kept making it past each level, and I'm like, "I don't know what's going on, guys." Like,
Like you were shocking yourself.
well, because there were like people who had been trying out for years
Mm-hmm.
in line with me, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on, but okay. And on the show, I did really well. Spoiler alert, I made it to the top six, 2 episodes from the finale. It was
Ah, so
great.
close.
I was so close. But when I came off, I started working as a recipe developer for like, all those meal planning kits. Like they had just blown up at the time, the
Oh
Blue
my God.
Aprons and the Plate
That's
Joys
so
and
funny. I just had Factor. We get Factor
oh
just delivered at my doorstep right now.
yeah, yeah.
That's so funny.
So I wrote recipes for them. I
Wow.
would um, do food photography, food styling, and prop styling for all these food startups in the Bay Area. Um, and then eventually I was able to get a cookbook deal. And that book ended up giving me a fairly decent platform, and it just kind of snowballed into a full career.
Oh my
Um,
God.
yeah.
And loving it. Are you
Yeah.
loving like being
I
in the
love it.
yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
this is the
yeah.
book that's coming it's coming out, right? It's not
It's
is it it
out.
is available.
It's
It
out.
is out now. Okay. Tell us
Yes.
a little bit about your
Yes.
book. Okay, first of all,
Yeah.
I haven't like had a physical copy, but I've seen
Yeah.
like how beautiful the colors and the photography. So, what was it like making a cookbook?
Okay.
Was it a
So
huge process? Like,
this one definitely was. My first cookbook, I had 3 years to like put it together, so I knew what I wanted. This one, I had about a year, and I knew I wanted to focus on the decoration of these bakes. I wanted them to be inspired by like Indian arts and textiles and handicrafts that I grew up around.
mhm.
Um, And because it was like very decoration heavy, I wanted to make sure that like the everyday person could do it.
Okay.
That if I kept failing at it, I'm pretty sure like a regular baker would probably
Me
also fail at it.
who didn't measure. Yeah.
So it was important for me to make sure that like I got all of that. Um and I think it was easier because I didn't have a little like my daughter was like 2 years old when I wrote my first book. Not even two yet,
Oh
but
my
yeah.
gosh.
So like I had like videos of me and my like photo because I photographed, wrote, and recipe tested my whole book myself.
Wow.
Both times. Like I have videos of her, like I'm taking a photo of a sweet potato pie for my first book, and I turn around and homegirl has stuck all her fingers
No. No.
in the pie.
Oh no. You're
And
like,
like
okay.
you can't even be mad because you're like,
I mean, it looks good. I want to try it.
yeah, I
I'll just
get it.
make another one.
So
Oh my
this
God.
time I was trying to write the book, and my daughter's 8, and I have also passed down my ADHD to her, except she's diagnosed, whereas I was not. Um, and I will get distracted because, at 8, they're just like insanely hungry all the time,
Yeah. And talking and
right?
busy and needing you and
Yeah.
yeah, all of that.
Yeah. Mommy, can I get a snack? Can I get another snack? I'm still hungry. Can you pour me a glass of milk? Mommy, can you cut my grilled cheese in triangles?
Oh my
And in that, I baked at least like 2 or 3 items where I forgot a major ingredient. Like I baked a cake without sugar in it, or I like
no.
made cookies without vanilla and like the baking powder in it or whatever. And I like looked at my husband. I'm like, you need to take her away.
Yeah,
You and Elara need to go to your parents' house in Alabama for 5 weeks and leave me alone.
get it done.
And that's what I did. I like in those 5 weeks, I was able to like bake everything, photograph everything, all that, but I needed it. Um,
Right.
and it made it a lot easier.
Oh, that's yeah, not having children in the house, that definitely helps, definitely. Okay,
Yeah.
so talking about holiday cookies, like for
Yes.
me, it is a family tradition. Like my grandma made these cookies that I'm gonna make this week and bring to our family party. And it's like, she's no longer around, but it's these cookies still remind us of her. Like everyone's like, it's almost cookies. What are some of your favorite cookies or fan favorites that you make?
Okay. I have a lemon cardamom snickerdoodle that
Oh,
people really love.
that sounds good.
They're eggless, which is great because egg allergies are pretty common.
Yeah.
Um, and it's a nice separate flavor from what you typically will get at a cookie swap or a holiday dessert table because you're going to get caramels and brown butters and chocolates and
Hmm.
peppermints. And the lemon just kind of brightens up the table. And the cardamom still gives you those cozy vibes. And then I also have a passion fruit shortbread cookie in my latest cookbook
Ooh.
that's pretty dang delicious as well. I just like bringing like fruity cookies because it just cuts. Because if you're like me and you're eating like one of every cookie that's on the table,
Yep.
it's nice to have like a little
A
bit of
break.
like it just cuts the richness.
Yes, yes. So then you can have another one after that.
Exactly.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay, so for amateur bakers like myself,
Yes.
what are some things we should always have on hand or like what equipment makes baking easier?
So I always have a good baking tray that parchment paper or silicone mat to go with that. The other thing is a hand mixer.
Okay.
If you have a stand mixer, that's wonderful. If you don't have it, a hand mixer works just as well. And if you're trying to make a lot of cookies, like if you have a really big family, a cookie press makes your life so much easier. You just make like one batter and then press. It'll make so many cookies.
Okay,
It's
what I don't
wild.
even know what a cookie press is. What is
A
that?
cookie a cookie press, it looks like a giant tube, and then you put like a little almost like like the pasta mold, but it's a cookie
Okay.
mold.
Okay.
So you make like a simple butter, like a spritz cookie dough is what it's
Hmm.
called. Um, and you fill this canister with all your cookie dough, and then there's a little lever, and when you press the lever, it pushes the dough and extrudes it through the little die cut. So like maybe you have a Christmas tree shape or a snowman or whatever, and then you do it directly onto an ungreased pan, and you just keep pressing,
Oh my
and it moves
gosh.
super quick.
I mean, I feel like my
And
kids would love to do that too.
yeah, it's
So fun.
great. And you
Okay,
can
is
make so
that
many.
is that what you use? Because you've sent me some cookies from Challenge Butter. Is that what is used for the glass ones? The
No, they're actual cookie shapes. So it's a sugar cookie dough.
okay. They were
Sugar
so
cookie dough.
cute. They didn't last. I wish I could show them. I mean, you still have some. My kids ate them all.
I've baked so many. Um, so this is a sugar cookie dough that you cut out and then use a snowflake cookie cutter to cut out the center. And then
Oh,
you bake them off. And then when they come out of the oven, you fill them with your melted, it's like a sugar syrup
okay.
basically.
Okay.
And then ice it with roll icing and then add a couple of, you can't see them, but I have
A little sparkle.
sugar,
Yes.
little sparkling sugar on top.
They're so
Um,
impressive looking. I'm like, these are too
right?
pretty. I shouldn't eat these. They're so
They
pretty.
look super fancy, but they're very easy to make because it is a very simple sugar cookie dough. And the recipe is actually on the inside of Challenge Butter's holiday packaging. On the inside is the recipe.
Oh, brilliant.
Um,
Brilliant.
yeah, so you can find it there. And it's a stained glass snowflake cookie recipe, and it's very
And you're
easy to
using
make.
the unsalted challenge butter for that.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay, tell me a little bit about if I'm throwing a cookie swap.
Mhm.
What are some things like what are pointers on how to organize that? How many cookies should people bring? Stuff like that.
Okay. So what I like to do is my guest list is based on how much tabletop space I have to display the cookies. So I will allot like 1 foot by one, maybe 2 feet or one
Okay.
by one if you want to keep it, if you want to like double stack and have one here and one here.
Okay.
So if my table is 9 feet, my islands are no 10 feet, okay, I can invite at least 19 people.
Okay.
Um, maximum, and that's if you don't plan on having like appetizers or drinks anywhere on the tables. So the worst is like when you invite a lot of people and then you fill the entire table and people have to reach around each other and it's
Get
just
the
a
cookies.
lot. Yes. So I do it by how much table space do I have for people to display their cookies? And then how much table space of that do I want to use to put out drinks and appetizers and snacks, etc. Um, I ask everyone to bring typically 2 dozen or enough for each person to have 2 cookies each.
Okay.
Because people are going to want to try one maybe while they're there and then want to bring
Take
in
one
their
with
little cookie
them.
box, right?
Yes.
So 2 cookies each. And then another thing I do is I ask my guests if they have allergies. So first invite everyone, um, and then have them tell you if they have any allergies. And then what you do as a hostess or host is you bake something that aligns with their dietary restrictions, just in case.
Okay.
And then also have it noted and just say like, hey, if you can, this is like if you can, make a gluten-free cookie or egg-free
Hmm.
cookie, please do. If you can't, it's fine.
Right.
Um, and but you as a hostess will make sure that there's something for that person, um, separated.
Okay.
Uh, because I feel bad, when someone comes in there,
Right.
like,
The nut allergies, the egg. Yeah. Yeah.
and especially nowadays, like there's so many kids that have these
Mhm.
allergies. I just like I feel awful um when someone can't have when they only have like one option.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so have that and then have them send out like a spreadsheet saying like please state what you're going to bring so that no one's bringing the
It's
same thing.
duplicate.
Recently,
Oh,
yeah, I recently, my daughter's PTA was doing cookies for the teachers. 16 people signed up, and out of the 16, I think 13 of them were making some sort of chocolate chip cookie,
oh
like a brown
gosh.
butter chocolate chip or,
Yeah.
peanut butter chocolate chip. And I was like, oh my God. All right. So I made my passion fruit shortbreads instead.
I'm
So,
sure they were like very excited to invite you to that. They're like, let's make sure that mom can do it.
uh, it's always fun. I always try to make something fun and interesting every year. Um, and then I would so have everyone write what they're gonna make and then ask them to email you the recipes of
Oh,
whatever
good
cookies they're
idea.
making. And then have your cookie exchange, have some boxes, paper boxes that you can buy off Amazon. Or you could literally go to your grocery store and ask them if you can buy cake boxes from them if you're
Mm,
like
yeah.
short on time. I've done that many times where I'm like, can I just buy the cake box? Just
I don't need the
just the
cake. I
box.
just need the box.
Just the box. Thank you. Um, so you can go to your local like grocery store and ask them for like an 8-inch square cake box. Um, and then have everyone can then make their boxes of cookies. Um, and then the end, when you send everyone a thank you for coming, you could send them a compiled PDF of all the
Oh,
recipes.
fun. How fun. I want to throw one now. I mean, we're running out of time this Christmas, but that would be so fun. Okay, you are partnering with Challenge Butter and Cookies for
Yes.
Kids. Tell us about this initiative.
Yeah, so Challenge Butter is partnering with Cookies for Kids this holiday season for an initiative called a Challenge for a Cure. So what that is that they're hoping people will hold bake sales or make donations to Cookies for Kids to help raise funds for pediatric cancer research. And the way they're hoping people do that is using this Challenge for a Cure initiative where they want people to take pictures of their bakes, whether it's these stained snowflake cookies, or your, auntie's snickerdoodles.
Uh-huh.
Um, Take a picture, post it on Instagram, post it on social media, and tag Challenge Butter, Cookies for Kids Cancer, and use hashtag Challenge for a Cure. And for every post, Challenge Butter is donating up to a certain amount. And it will hopefully inspire your friends and families to donate or do bake sales or even post themselves on social
Hmm.
media. It's the season of giving. This is a really easy way to give. And it is a initiative that's super close to my heart. I worked in cancer research and I've had family members who've had pediatric cancer. So this is just a really great way to just do something good this season.
I love that. And who wouldn't want to post their cookies and share about
Right?
all that? It's
I mean,
awesome.
you're already going to be posting it. You
Right.
might as well add the
Right.
hashtags and the
Right. I
tags.
mean, mine aren't going to be as pretty as yours. I was looking at your blog, the Milk and Cardamom. I'm like, oh, her blog is so pretty. It's so
Thank
pretty.
you.
Did
Thank you.
you
Thank
did
you.
you when did you start that? Your blog?
Oh my gosh. I started
Is that one
blogging with
one of the
a
first?
Tumblr in like
Oh,
2006.
wow.
And before that, I had a Zanga. I am like an OG
Oh, gee. Yeah.
millennial
Yeah.
internet
That's why
person.
like some people are like, what's a blog?
Yeah, I was like, Do y'all remember Zanga? No, no one?
I was on it. It's so pretty. It was like, oh, this looks so good. The colors you use,
Thank
everything. I
you.
love it all. Love it
Thank you.
all.
Thank you.
Okay, if people want to find you, where can we find you and get your book?
You can find me on Instagram at Milk and Cardamom or at my blog at milkandcardamom.com. And you can find my book, Milk and Cardamom, which is my first book, or Desi Bakes, my second book, at Amazon, Target, Barnes& and Nobles, or check out your local bookstore.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to let you get back to your baking because I know you have a lot of cookies to bake today. But thank you so much for hopping on and chatting with me.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for everyone for tuning in today. This was such a fun conversation. I loved hearing her story of how she got to this point in her baking career. I thought that was so fun. And now I need to go buy a scale because clearly I have been messing up these cookies for a while. Anyways, this is going to be the last episode for 2024. I am taking the next week off to be with my family over the holidays. But I will be back in January for those Friday conversations. So don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. So get ready to enjoy the holidays with your family. And I'll see you in 2025. And don't forget, everyone burns their first pancake, so just keep flipping.